Petite Tournesol is, of course, Little Sunflower, the Freddie Hubbard classic. And this is a fun tune because it combines a long Dorian section, and then the B section goes into Lydian and the major scale Ionian. D minor, Dorian, first half, E flat, Lydian, D Ionian in the bridge. So a lot of times this is always a question, what do you play on long modal tunes? So, and one of the things also I'm always trying to talk with students is to get away from practicing up and down scales. Because the truth is you can only play what you practice. And if all you ever practice is playing up and down scales, guess what? When you go to solo, it's going to sound like you're running up and down scales. So there's a little supplemental that I added here to help you get started that you can practice outside of this etude, which is to start to break down the diatonic arpeggios of a key. So in this case, we have D Dorian, which is the C major scale. So the supplemental is the diatonic triads for C major. So that's really what I'm doing in this piece, is I'm playing through, I'm breaking up the triads shapes. Or let me start it specifically. If I was playing C major here in second position, I'd go. And you know, the great thing about this sort of practice or breaking down these patterns like this is you take in a lot of ways to play one type of triad. You sort of hit on every possible fingering, because I could play a major triad here, and then later on I could play it here, here. Here's another major triad. So there have all these combinations of every way to play a triad that you'll get into your muscle memory. So these would be, or I could play through the pattern this way, which I do quite often in this etude, as I go up the first one and I come down the second one. So C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, C major. So getting these kinds of shapes under your hands is really essential to be a good improviser. Whether you're playing rock or blues or jazz, these are just great shapes to start to develop. So anyway, this is really what I concentrated on in the first course, and different ways to play through those. Now, you're going to see a couple other things that hopefully will be familiar by now in this, is I'd use a little bit of, on the D Dorian, I use the G7 bebop scale. But I could also use a G7 bebop scale to sort of intersperse in there to add, because it has that nice chromatic note, the chromaticism of it. So I might use that sometimes in a line. Anyway, that's something that you can take, I think, once you get some of these triad shapes together in the bebop scale, is combining them. There's also another two substitutions that I try to make really clear in this, which are, actually I'm really implying it right out of the gate, is B half diminished over D minor. So that, if you play a B half diminished, or B minor 7 flat 5, if you want to call it that, arpeggio over D minor, you're bringing out the Dorian sound. You're bringing out the sixth, the root, the flat 3, and the flat 7. So it's a really great Dorian sound. So I'm really bringing that out in this first part. And then the other sound that I'm bringing out a lot is F major 7. So F major 7, in context of D minor, gives you the third, the fifth, the flat 7th, and the 9th. So that really turns that into, and if I play it as a chord voicing, let's see if I can, turns it into, don't try this at home, sorry. F major 7 over D brings out that D minor 7/9 sound. So I guess the moral of the story in terms of substitutions that you can use on D Dorian would be G7 bebop scale, obviously a D minor 7 arpeggio, or actually, I'm going to tell you them in this order: G7 bebop, B half diminished, D minor 7, and F major 7. So now you might want to take note, and we can definitely talk about this at a later time. G, B, D, F are all the chord tones of a G7. And I have a little thing, maybe some of you have heard me talk about, called the family of 4. That's the family of 4 right there. There's 4 substitutions that you can use on that D Dorian. So they're all in there. I think if you when you get into playing this, keep your ear and eye open for those sounds on that Dorian. But definitely, a lot of these, again, I want to go back to this thing about the diatonic triads. I'm really bringing that across because you can keep that as a moving line at any time. It'll give you a way to move through that scale without being scalar sounding. Scalar. That sounds like something down south. Scalar. All right, sorry. So same sort of thing on the E flat major 7. E flat Lydian is, guess what? It's a B flat major scale. So I'm using the diatonic triads. Of B flat major over that, right? So that's how I think about modes. I'm one of these people. I see the whole big key center. So, and then again on the D major, also you could, here's another little substitution in there. F sharp minor 7. And you see there, I have used a little chromaticism and also a D major 7 bebop scale to create some chromaticism. But that's really F sharp minor 7 over D. And then, we go back to that E flat Lydian. I'm just using the triads of B flat major or E flat Lydian. So that's really the first course, is the meditation of diatonic triads and a couple of those chord substitutions to create the Dorian sound. Little bit of use of that, an F sharp minor 7 over D, and a little bebop scale in there. So that pretty much covers the first chorus. The second chorus, again, that Dorian section, I'm really using that G7 bebop scale quite a bit. In a way, I'm also implying a little bit that it's a 2/5 in there by using that G7 bebop scale. Actually, there's a little chromaticism in there, but that way, that's why I kind of combined them all. I gave you the kitchen sink with that lick. That's in the 17th measure. I come down a bebop scale, G7 bebop, from the 3rd, and then I go into an F major 7. Right? So F major 7 over D minor, and then I give a little stinger on the B natural. So that's also implying that B half diminished. So I tried to combine those sounds as much as I could to get this sound in your ear. So again, the second course is a little bit more beboppy, a little bit using more of that bebop scale. F major 7, B half diminished over the D minor. So let's move into this last bridge, where I'm going to introduce you again or reintroduce you, let's say this time, to the triad pair, but I'm going to introduce you to a new use of this. So on the E flat major 7, the top of the bridge, I use that triad pair. So I'm really combining F and E flat. Right, that's probably where it comes from. So F over E flat gives you sharp 11, 9, and the 6, and then obviously E flat is your tonic. But I'm combining them. A little chromatic, and that's also a little reflection of Passion Dance, also from that era, McCoy Tyner tune. But I use something, also a triad pair in the next section. So I really lay out an E triad over the D. So I'm going E and D. Now, that is line when I come up from the E. is what we call a major hexatonic scale. Okay, now it's a big fancy word for combining the triads in a scale-like fashion. So that's what a hexatonic means. It's a 6-note scale. So it's combining 3 triads. There's 3 notes in this triad, there's 3 notes in this triad. Add them together, we get a 6-note scale. We call those hexatonic. So this example is on the D major chord in the second chorus is a major hexatonic. So it sounds like this. You know, a funny thing about these is it's actually sometimes the way I teach people to learn them on the instrument is if you know a major pentatonic, just add a sharp 11. So that is called if you never knew what that was, I didn't know what it was for a long time, and I had to figure that out. It's called the major hexatonic scale. But it's really just combining, if you take all the notes of an E triad and a D triad and you line them up in a scale-like fashion, that's what it is. So it's another way of using the triad pair in a more scalar fashion. So I use it there, and then I want to bring it back and show it to you again on the E flat. So that's the E flat and F major hexatonic scale. So I guess it gives you some choices in terms of how you use it. And in the examples previously, I sort of played right up and down the triad, sort of just outlining them or maybe approaching them with a chromatic approach. But in these last sections of the tune, I combined them to be a melodic scale. So the very last line of the whole thing is a B minor 7 B minor 7 arpeggio over D major. So that's the related minor, and that gives you a nice D major 6 sound. So there's a lot of stuff in this is kind of a wide open thing. Also, check out what I've done with this rhythmically, because with all of these pieces that I've put together for you, I've taken a lot of consideration on rhythmic phrasing. So you could see how I have placed and displaced some of these ideas, the diatonic triads or some of these upper structure triads. So anyway, I hope that you'll get a lot of good ideas and good sounds out of this little exploration of Little Sunflower Petite Tournesol.